This whole issue of telework really concerns me because it impacts productivity so much, and you've got to have a collaborative effort that you just don't get with telework.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
There are a lot of benefits to telework. Particularly, I think kind of the optimal situation is the situation that I fortunately have at my job, where you telework for 2 or 3 days a week, and then you're in the office for 2 or 3 days a week. I think that's really optimal. You kind of get the best of both of those situations. You get the benefits of both, because there are obviously, I think it would be difficult to argue that there are zero benefits from being in the office. I would never argue that. And so you're able to get those a couple of days a week, and then the rest of the days of the week, you get the benefits of being able to telework and the flexibility that comes with that and all that kind of stuff.
Right. But I think it really just varies on everybody's situation and what works best for them. I'm with you. I kind of like that hybrid model of best of both worlds.
But right now, for me, we are moving. My agency is moving buildings, and so we are 100% telework. It is not good for my brain. I'll tell you that. So if you're 100% telework, going out to stuff like this is always good. Is good for you. Go out, touch grass, talk to people.
Absolutely.
It can help you improve your mood. Vex in the chat says, very nice regarding the discussion about the fundraiser. Very nice. Thank you for all that you do. Appreciate it. Jada says, y'all killed it last week. I'm a newer listener, and it was great. So glad I found your show. Appreciate you tuning in, Jada, and glad you stuck around. Really appreciate it, and hope we continue to do good stuff. Bill says same regarding what Jada said as far as being a newer listener, and glad they found that Bill found our show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, glad both of y'all are here. And Teamsters 630 Dairy Workers
in the house.
In the house, yeah. Appreciate y'all joining Teamsters Local 630 Dairy Workers. So what do you do? You work in dairy. Appreciate everybody tuning in. 844-899-8857 is the phone number if you want to call in and contribute. Ask us a question. Tell us about a story. Bad boss stories are always welcome. Anything like that. 844-899-8857. So let's talk about telework. We know that since 2020, telework has really exploded, not just across the federal workforce. Well, I'm a federal employee. It's really, I have been probably since 2020, the majority of the time I have been 100% telework, even though, for a while, for about a year or so, I was in what is going to be, I think, the standard operating procedure going forward, 2 days in the office, 3 days at home. But now we're back to 100% telework because we're moving into a new building. And so they're moving our furniture, and so we got a few months on 100% telework. But telework has exploded not just in the federal workforce, but across the private sector as well. And, there's some right-wing weirdos who are very upset about that and about government workers getting the same benefits that private sector workers get. It's not just this issue of telework, but any issue. Right-wing politicians want government jobs to be so low-paying, have so few benefits, be so precarious, and be so bad that the quality of the product decreases. You have higher turnover, and the quality of the product decreases, and so then they can try to make the case for privatization. That's the whole thing, right? You sabotage government services, and then after you finish sabotaging the government services, you turn around and you point at the inadequate government services that you have sabotaged, and you say, "Hey, wow, that's bad. That's bad. Look at how bad the government is. The government's broken. We need to privatize it." We need to privatize it, and then they can funnel taxpayer dollars into the pockets of their donors, and sometimes even in their own pockets. That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. You hear right-wing freaks talking about government bad. That's the deal. They have sabotaged it in one way or another to the extent that government bad, a lot of times it's derivative of underfunding and understaffing and overwork and all of this kind of stuff. and
captured by those very said forces. Absolutely.
Like coal executives running the Mine Safety and Health Administration, right? So government, that's not good for government. When coal executives, or when the foxes are running the hen house, right? Stuff like that happens. Not good for government. But a lot of times they say government bad, and it's actually simply not the case. You hear a lot of bad stuff about the post office for some reason, but the post office is like freaking awesome. I've always had I almost always have great experiences dealing with the post office. And provides and they're trying to do what they can about that by keeping wages low at the post office. But that's another story for another day. So we had another episode in this saga, specifically as it relates to telework, with Alabama U.S. House Representative Gary Palmer grilling the head of a federal agency about telework. So let's listen to this clip from last week's hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Carnahan, some of the questions that I have about the whole situation with federal properties has to do with workforce, which you really don't have any control over. The low productivity that we're now seeing in the federal workforce because of the failure of so many employees to actually report to the office. This whole issue of telework really concerns me because it impacts productivity so much, and you've got to have a collaborative effort that you just don't get with telework. That doesn't address the issue of, are you getting the job done, and has productivity increased or gone down? And Madam, productivity in the overall workforce in the United States is at levels lower than what we've seen in 40-something years. It's just so frustrating to me for us to do some things that are pretty good, like divesting our portfolio of properties, but then see our productivity go down. I grew up on a farm, and we kind of understood when the bees leave the hive, they're not making honey. They're not making honey. They're not making honey.
All right, so there we go. So, look, he made a lot of claims there, Gary Palmer did, and other representatives. Gary Palmer and other representatives they're nothing if they are not evidence-based in their beliefs and the policies that they try to push. So, Adam, let's play the clip where he lays out all the evidence that federal workers are less productive as we are utilizing telework. Let's play that clip.
Okay. Looking for it. Are you
not seeing anything?
Not seeing anything. Interesting.
Yeah, that's right. That's silly me. It doesn't exist. The clip of him presenting any evidence doesn't exist.
What?
Yeah, if you can imagine that. In his entire questioning of that agency head, in all of his public comments that he has made subsequent to that, and even in the local right-wing radio host Michael Yaffe's, quote, reporting on it, none of them cite any evidence of federal workers being unproductive while teleworking, which is really kind of bonkers, right? I mean, it's not like there is no evidence out there that you could manipulate to try to make your point, right? Obviously, when you talk about a topic, virtually any topic, you can find some evidence on any side of any issue, typically. And that exists here. There is some numbers out there that you can show your audience without any context to try to make the case that teleworking is bad. There are some numbers about like, oh, well, if you employ this management style while 100% teleworking, then productivity declines. And it's like, well, that shouldn't be surprising. There are certain things that you can do to make telework worse than in-office work, obviously, right? There's obviously things that you can do that can make it worse. So it's really wild to me that they just don't use any of the evidence that's out there to make their point. They're just so lazy. They are so lazy in making this argument and trying to make this point that they're not even willing to do the bare minimum and find a little bit of evidence to try to mislead you They're not even willing to do that. They're just throwing this bullshit out there and hoping it sticks, right? Without doing any of the legwork. And the irony of these folks, of these people who are not doing any of this legwork, who are being so lazy that they're not willing to do any research. The irony of these folks saying that federal employees are lazy, that should not be lost on us.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
But the reality is very much that, generally speaking, telework actually has a positive impact. It's not even a negligible impact. The bulk, the driving, the driving force of the evidence, the weight of the evidence is very much on the side of that telework actually has a positive impact on productivity. It's not even that it's negligible. Generally speaking, telework has a positive impact on productivity. And here is the agency head that he was trying to grill, illustrating exactly that point to Representative Palmer.
I care a lot about productivity. This is a thing that we track closely. And I will tell you that in the last 3 years alone, our business volume has gone up 38%. In the last 10 years, it's gone up 82%. And we also track customer satisfaction scores. So the same as you would see in the private sector, it's on a scale of 1 to 5. Our customer satisfaction score during that period has gone from 3.0 to 3.9%. So I pay a lot of attention to these things. I want to make sure that we're giving good value to the American people and we're delivering on our mission. That's what I commit to you, sir, and to the American people.
Mr. Chairman.
Hard data, facts, numbers, and Palmer did not even acknowledge any of that, much less try to respond to it or debunk it, right? Because he can't, because, well, for one reason that he can't is because he hasn't done even the slightest bit of research about this issue and about any of the research around it. He doesn't care about that because he's so lazy. And he's only going on feelings. Like, I feel like workers are so lazy, and it is so important that we have somebody driving them every second of the day, looking over their shoulders as they type away on their keyboards. It's so important. I feel that so deeply in my gut that I don't have to do any research. I can just say, I grew up on a farm and that's how I know it. And somebody in the chat actually makes a very, very good point. Bill says, if the bees don't leave the hive, the flowers don't get pollinated. so even in his own folksy dumbass trying to make it seem like it's intuitively the case that telework is bad, doesn't even work, because actually it is very true that the bees have to leave the hive to make honey. Like you can't only be inside of the hive and make honey. It doesn't work that way. So, I mean, just it really, really bonkers. Jada says in the chat, the amount of time that I spend in my school building when I could just do telework, especially on planning days over the summer when they forget to turn on the AC, that's another thing. You lose so much time in the commute, and then, office conditions when the AC is bad or stuff that's outside of your control that you could control in your own home. All of that, it makes sense that telework is good and that it improves productivity. Were you about to say something, Adam?
I was just going to say that I heard once you're elected that you no longer have to Google something.
Oh.
Like, you don't actually have to look up anything.
Right.
It's probably in the Constitution.
Yeah, there you go. If I feel it, it's probably in the Constitution. Yeah.
Yeah, once you're elected, once you're in the office, no need to do any homework.
Nah.
Homework? Talk about homework? No. He's been elected. He doesn't have to know things.
Yeah, that's below me. But, I took the time, unlike Yaffe and Palmer, to do some more digging, and I've got some other numbers to share with you. In a survey conducted by the AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees, and Cooley Public Strategies, 91% of Social Security employees surveyed said that they were, quote, much more efficient. Not just I was more efficient. They were, quote, much more efficient and productive while teleworking in a self-reported survey of Social Security workers. And it's not just limited to Social Security. A survey of federal workers more broadly found similar results. A total of 71.2 respondents reported that telework had improved their productivity at their agency a great deal. Another 16.3% said productivity had improved somewhat due to telework. 9.5% said telework had no impact on productivity. 2% said telework decreased productivity somewhat, and less than 1% said it decreased productivity a great deal. Overall, 87% of respondents said telework had improved productivity at their agency somewhat or a great deal, and 97% of respondents said telework has either had no impact or improved productivity. Those are some pretty, lopsided results. But I can hear you saying, Jake, of course, the lazy, no good government bureaucrats will say that they've increased their productivity, because not only are they lazy, they're liars. Government bureaucrats are. So I can't trust what they say about their work and their productivity and their working conditions. What do you take me for? Okay, hypothetical protester. I've got some other numbers for you. Because the Government Accountability Office built a report on studies that found other ways than self-reported productivity to measure the impact of teleworking. Here are some results from the report built out, that surveyed a bunch of studies on this issue, written up by the Government Accountability Office. Here are some excerpts. One study that used objective measurements to assess the impact of telework on productivity of a Chinese call center found that productivity as measured by calls resolved increased by 13%. That is like not a small amount. If you can increase productivity by 13%, that is significant. One survey fielded in Great Britain found a positive relationship between teleworking and manager-assessed productivity for workers. So it's not the workers self-reporting in this study. It's managers saying, yeah, my workers are more productive when they're at home. Another study examining telework in a large Chinese travel agency found that computer engineers who were randomly assigned the option to work from home up to 2 days a week wrote 8% more lines of code relative to those who were not provided this option. The study also found that there was no impact on performance reviews for workers who were allowed to telework. Additionally, the study found that the engineers reported that their productivity rose by 1.8% on average compared to the peers who were not teleworking. So there you go. Don't believe the dum-dums who tell you that working from home is prima facie bad. Generally, the numbers show positive results. There are, of course, best practices that can and should be followed, as with in-office work, right? There are ways that you can make in-office work bad. But telework itself is just objectively good, and where it goes bad, it is the fault of management, not the workers. And that's what science is saying, not me. So there you go. Telework good, Gary Palmer bad. Dumb, stupid, ignorant, doesn't know anything. Gary Palmer. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.